One of the other G2G core values that we have is self-responsibility. Okay, so once again, to use a kind of dictionary definition of that, we're saying the state of being responsible, answerable, or accountable for something within one's own power, control, or management. Okay, so the way I like to think about this, and there's a really powerful concept that I try my best to live my life to. It's not always easy, but it's the concept of sometimes it's called spheres of control. It pops up in kind of Stoic philosophy as well, and that is the idea and getting your head around the fact that ultimately the only thing you have control over is the way you choose to react to any situation. Say for instance something goes wrong, or you're finding something really challenging. The first question you always ask yourself is, what is my responsibility here? Am I basically fulfilling my end of the bargain? That's the first place you will start. So whenever there's a problem or an issue, the first question is, rather than looking externally for someone to blame, someone to complain to, or something like that, the first question you would ask is always, what's my responsibility here, and am I living up to that responsibility? So with that kind of strive for autonomy, that taking self-responsibility, one of the things that we very much acknowledge is that there are times where that can be an incredibly uncomfortable thing to do. But it's the recognition and the realization that if you're looking for that long-term success, that developing of autonomy, that taking of self-responsibility, is that it's embracing the fact that when you are taking responsibility for something, then sometimes that can be quite an uncomfortable process. And talking in a kind of coaching scenario, that can be an uncomfortable process for both the member, but then also for the coach as well. And it's about leaning into that discomfort with the understanding that it will lead to long-term growth. So it is thinking, right, rather than this makes me feel uncomfortable, I'm not prepared to do this, and either stopping or, as I say, looking for other people to kind of blame or to shift the focus away from yourself. It is taking responsibility and going, right, okay, what is my role in this? How can I be better, before you start looking externally for solutions. But as I said, that takes courage, that takes guts, for want of a better word, because there are times when that will make you feel uncomfortable and is difficult. But in my experience, the vast majority of times, that if you are able to, as I say, lean into that discomfort, you will really reap the rewards in the long term. So we're talking about taking self-responsibility to build autonomy, and we're talking about how that can be quite an uncomfortable process. So one of the things that feeds very much into that is the understanding is that how do we create that autonomy? How do we coach you through that autonomy? And that is by giving you honest, insightful, and if appropriate, compassionate feedback. And it's then down, once again, self-responsibility. How will you take that feedback? Will you try and deflect it, or will you understand that part of the coaching relationship is that ultimately we want you to succeed and achieve your goals, but there will be times where we maybe need to give you some feedback that you maybe don't want to hear. But don't ever forget that we have your best interests at heart, and we are trying to drive you and guide you towards what it is that you're trying to achieve. And as I said, there are times when that might require us giving you some quite forthright feedback about things that are going well, things that are maybe perhaps going quite as well. We're asking people to take self-responsibility as we expect that from ourselves and from the other coaches. And how, when we're talking about that process of when something goes wrong, the first question is look internally first for your part in something. How does that all work? And one thing that's really, really important with that is having a very clear set of expectations when you are starting this journey. Is you have a very clear idea of what is expected of you, so that when things do get difficult, or when we are asking you to ask yourself that question, am I taking self-responsibility here? You know exactly what the boundaries are, exactly what we are expecting of you, and what you can expect from us. So if that's very clearly defined, then that makes that whole process a lot clearer and much more simple to follow.